At the same time, Hong Kong, maybe even Asia investors are very reluctant to see, or very conservative, I should say, to see investments in climate, renewable energy. They are very gung-ho about returns on the investment. And they justify this with this opaque word called financial fiduciary duty.
Welcome to Asia Climate Finance, your front row seat to the policies, investments, and actors shaping climate business and finance across Asia Pacific. Subscribe now so others find this essential guide to Asia's climate economy, and note the disclaimers at the end. Now over to the host, analyst, investor, and author, Joseph Jacobelli.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be listening from. Welcome to Asia Climate Finance. Today I'm joined by Yau Chong. From leading Oxfam in Hong Kong to founding Climate Finance Asia, Yau bridges the gap between poverty justice and global capital. In the discussion, we go through what's going on in Hong Kong in terms of renewable energy development, and also we discuss probably the most crucial topic in Asia, the phasing out of coal-fired power plants. Yau also addresses the question, are investors hiding behind old-school fiduciary duty to stall progress? As always, send your ideas to acfpod@outlook.com and enjoy the show. Hey, Yau, thank you so much for joining me on Asia Climate Finance. I'm really glad that you could make the time.
Thank you, Joseph, for inviting me.
Well, again, it's an honor and a great pleasure to have you. Before we dig into some of the questions, can you tell us about your own journey, in your own words, from your Oxfam years through to founding CarbonCare Innolab and your work with Climate Finance Asia, and how that path actually led you into climate business and climate finance?
Well, I joined Oxfam really early on in my career in the mid-80s when Oxfam wanted to set up an organization in Hong Kong. So I was invited as a board member. And thereafter, I became its fundraising director and then executive director until 2007. So that was already a 20 years journey with Oxfam. So we've been through poverty cities around the world, development, hunger, suffering, and so on. And we wanted to identify the structural causes of poverty. And one of them was the environment, environment destruction, and also climate change. So after a long time in Oxfam, I wanted to focus on climate change. In 2002, you may recall that there was a World Summit on Sustainable Development in Joburg. And yes, I was part of the Oxfam team, and I had to present a campaign, voices collected by Oxfam around the world, to the chairman of the summit, President Key from South Africa. So I knew that advocacy was very important and climate justice was very important from that point on. So I wanted to start my own organizations to deal with climate change as a crisis.
Right, understood. Let's start with Hong Kong itself as the first part of our conversation. For a dense land-scarce city that imports nearly all of its energy, where do you honestly think the local renewables industry stands right now?
I think the local renewable energy sector is going too slowly. There was a saying that renewable energy in Hong Kong doesn't have enough bases. So there is a reluctance to give up fossil fuel. And so I honestly think that we have more renewable resources than people wanted to believe in.
Right.
In 2019, the government introduced the free-in tariff, okay, as after years of our advocacy. So at that time, I started to launch solar systems with a grant from the Job Club. I started to work with NGOs to turn the rooftops of agencies into producing renewable energy. We install the solar system there. And now I think over 40 or up to 50 systems have been built. So I think it's just a tiny proof that it works if people want to take action on things. During the Paris COP in 2015, I was with the Secretary for Environment in Hong Kong at that time. So I proposed to them that we should actually make use of the reservoir service in Hong Kong to build floating solar systems. At the time, that was being experimented in Tokyo and Europe and even mainland China.
Of course.
And with great success. And then they attempted a pilot project in Hong Kong, but the pilot project lasted for 5, 6, or 7 years before they start to gradually expand it. So I think that there is so much hesitation because we are too accustomed, or in other words, addicted to traditional secure energy source. Maybe it's about cost, maybe it's about convenience, it's also about indulgence. So, but we have more renewable energy resources. We should be explore collaboration with the neighboring areas. We actually call off 2 major systems. That was already in the blueprint, the 9-pin wind farm and the wind farm near the Llama Island. So I think we are going against the trend in the world. Yeah, but that's not satisfactory.
Yeah, I mean, it could also be that some governments like to take the conservative view, or the if it's not broken, you don't need to touch it or reform it. And I think historically there's been that attitude from many governments that let's just stick to what we know and let's just stick to what works without really trying too hard. What, in your experience in Hong Kong when you were doing this, I think it was called the Jockey Club Solar Care Program, right? That program was designed to do 2 things at once: generate clean energy and help charities cut costs and fund their own work. How well has that dual purpose actually played out on the ground?
Well, actually, I would say it's a 3 tri-pillar system. So it was done by my organization called CarbonCare Innolab. Okay. So it produces renewable energy for one part, and it generates regular income for the NGOs, that second pillar. And the third one is education, climate education, because the solar system is the basis of community education. We have built solar systems with youth camps, with elderly homes, with even home for children. We launched education program to different sectors, reaching even those who in special education need children. And we develop games and to talk to the children in the Precious Blood home for the children. about expanding their view, talking to them about how solar system can help human beings and how climate change is now producing crisis to a lot of places, and that we all share the same common global village, and that climate change knows no border. So I mean, it's expanding their worldview as well. So I would say education, renewable energy, and even financial sustainability are the three pillars of the Jockey Club Solar Clear system. So thanks to their funding, but we help them to deliver these three purposes.
That's really great, and I'm sure it can be replicated in other places, right? In other cities as well, right?
I'm sure. Now that I have started an organization in UK called Climate Transition 2100. So yeah, there is a similar model in UK, but we also can leverage the experience we gained in Hong Kong to apply to a particular communities here as well. Definitely the same principle. Whether or not there is a feed-in tariff scheme, still you can use solar systems to achieve educational, financial, and energy objectives.
CHAN Yau, having built all of those sites in Hong Kong, what have you learned about what it actually takes to scale up solar power in Hong Kong? And could the model go a lot bigger?
Sure. I think if we have NGO sites as a basis, then I believe that there are more things we can encourage the private sector. We can build a community of solar owners. We can popularize knowledge about renewable energies, and also by extension, energy conservation as well. So I hope that it can also be a demonstration to the policymakers and the big energy suppliers, because they are going to keep the balance. If the main supplier of electricity in Hong Kong can accelerate their transition to renewable energy, they are still pretty much stuck with fossil fuels, even though they're willing to change to gas, but phasing out coal. But the speed is slow and the objective target are conservative from our point of view.
Talking about targets, CHAN Yau, stepping back to the city's overall picture, your Paris Watch reports keep warning that Hong Kong won't hit net zero by 2050 unless it gets more ambitious about 2030. Why do you think the near-term ambition keeps falling short?
Well, there are a number of unexpected things happening, but the main thing is still policy determinations. Hong Kong, like many other places, encounter COVID, and then economic downturn, and then the concern, the traditional belief that if you go to a green economy, then that might compromise your economic development,
right?
Which is false. Okay, so a green economy is also very much geared towards development, increasing new job opportunities, and also developing new economic growth. So I think I would say it's a very, we are still very stuck with the old school of building more and more infrastructure, the third runway, this kind of thing. But now you see that the poverty bubble has burned, and I think we are still not learning the lessons. Okay, so that's our observation. But I mean, the good thing is that China has put climate objectives as very clear in their planning.
Right.
And I hope that would help speed up the Hong Kong transition. And I think hopefully we could still hit the target. The warning, we want to be proven wrong when these reports were published. But so we don't want to celebrate that we correctly predicted. We hope that we are proven wrong, that the net zero target is being achieved, and the 2030 targets can be more ambitious.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of areas in climate where one wishes one would be proven wrong. If I can shift gear a little bit and talk a little bit about something more regional, CHAN YAU, just turning to the transition more broadly, coal phase out is something that you've been discussing publicly for a bit now. For the wider region, what does a credible and fair timeline for getting off coal actually look like, knowing that some countries currently over-rely on their energy supply from coal-fired power plants?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for bringing this up. I'm working on an organization called Climate Finance Asia. We published 2 reports on coal-fired plant transition, and we also worked out a transition guideline for transition finance, transition considerations. So our observation is that, I mean, Asia has the most coal-fired plants in the world. My statistics is about 40%. And then coal-fired plants is known to be a major carbon emission source.
Right.
And we have run through several COPs with various degrees of commitment to phase out coals. I still remember in Glasgow, I was at COP26, and the countries were arguing about phasing out or phasing down, whatever that choice of word to tune down the speed. But it's now very slow. Recently, I think there was 1 or 2 examples of successful phasing out. The ACEN case, ACEN, is one. So and we still hope that coal-fired plant transition can be speed up for several reasons. Number one, it's causing a lot of health and community issues these are, well, they call externalities, but they're about real life issues. Okay. We need urgent action for carbon emission and coal to reduce it, control it. And renewable energy is actually getting cheaper and cheaper, cheaper than coal. And then I know there are people who talk about coal fire or fossil fuel in general as a energy security issue. But now that with geopolitics, we see that relying on imported fossil fuel, including coal, in itself is a risk factor. Okay, renewable energy, the solar, the wind knows no border, and Asia has plenty of those resources. And Asia is also the places, especially from China, the source of cheaper and cheaper components for renewable energies. the solar panels and so on. So, I mean, the trend is going there, and we hope people can take the decision. It's up to policymakers. It's also up to the financial leaders with long-term view to deploy finance to accelerate coal-fired plant transition. I know a lot of NGOs, philanthropy foundations are trying to help, but the major trigger point has still to be coming from the policymakers and the mainstream financial institutions. For Climate Finance Asia, we want to work more in this space, and hopefully we can find more collaborators.
I was just thinking, you've moved more and more into the finance side of all of this. Why does climate finance matter so much to whether that transition actually happens? Apart from the obvious, that obviously you need money to do things.
Well, yeah, nothing can be achieved at scale without capital. And I mean, a lot of capital are moving to matters that even actually accelerate the climate crisis. I mean, I am fond of AI, like many other people. I see that it's a source of solutions. But at the same time, it also demands so much energy and resources. So I think at the same time, we want to look at the long term. Most financial institutions are looking for short-term returns. So we need to change the mindset to avoid stranded assets, to see a new formula of risk, to take into account externalities, impact on social and environmental conditions of the people who may suffer from short-term financial return, investment, and so on. So it's important not just as a money matter. It's also to me, it's also ethics. It's also sustainability. I don't know why nowadays when people talk about finance, it seems that if we talk about ethics, it will be like, oh, you are not realistic. You are too idealistic. But we are human beings. We live for the good of humans, and that's why we are different. So for those who manage finance, they need to understand the impact of their decisions on human beings, and
yeah, I think there's a lot of impact investors who actually do care. But I guess one of the challenges is with terminology and definitions and the words that you use, like today using ESG in, for example, North America, especially the US, it's almost like saying something rude. The issue is, at the end of the day, you do care about the potential environmental impact of a company's project. You do care about the social impact of a company's project. And obviously, you do care about how a company is governed. So it's all about terminology more than people not believing it. So there's a language issue, I think. Moving on to your outlook on both of the subjects that we discussed, CHAN YAU. One is, how do you see Hong Kong today addressing renewables? I mean, do you expect that over the next 10 years, taking us to 2035 or the next 24 years, do you think that you're going to see an acceleration, perhaps because mainland China has been accelerating, so that could kind of drag Hong Kong? And then the second question about your outlook is about phasing out coal-fired power plants. How optimistic are you that some measures are going to be implemented over the next 10 years, 20 years in Asia?
The two questions can be related. I hope. I heard that Hong Kong wanted to be a center of green finance.
Yes.
So it organizes summits and meetings, and there is one coming up in September. I heard that what Hong Kong wants to play a role with its financial infrastructure. But at the same time, Hong Kong, maybe even Asia investors are very reluctant to see, or very conservative, I should say, to see investments in climate, renewable energy. They are very gung-ho about returns on the investment. And they justify this with this opaque word called financial fiduciary duty. So I hope that they also see it as steward of finance. They have also a climate fiduciary duty. How they deploy the money has an impact on the environment of these and the next generations. So coal-fired plant is one subject of climate transition, and I think it is a major one, personally. So I hope that if you talk to Hong Kong investors and so on, few people will pay attention to it. But we hope that in the coming years, this will change. A lot of coal-fired plants have been built with Chinese capital for the economic reasons that might be relevant earlier. But now it's time to change. And there must be a way of avoiding them becoming too low in return, but too high in their damages. So we hope that this would becoming more and more transparent to them. And Climate Finance Asia, with all other like-minded organizations, will be able to demonstrate a credible, rational, and justifiable, and also financially feasible way of phasing out more and more of these coal-fired plants. So I think it needs some years. I would say it will not happen in the next 2 years. It will happen in the next 5 years. I think people will. It takes time, but we are moving in the same right direction. So time is not a factor. We can speed it up if we have enough commitment.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you said. Great, CHAN YAU. Thank you so much for the discussion on Hong Kong, on Asia, and some thoughts about the future. On a much lighter note, and to wrap things up, for listeners who want to go deeper, is there anything that's caught your eye lately? Maybe a book, a report, a film, a documentary, or any other media form that you'd like to point to them?
Oh, yeah, let me think. Maybe, I hope you don't mind me advertising a bit.
No problem.
Maybe people can go to the Climate Finance Asia website and look for our reports on coal-fired plant transition. We have done a report covering Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, and Pakistan on the factors affecting transition decision and the motivating factors that might be helping people to consider transition. And then there is a second report, go deeper into Indonesia. And we find out that it's policy before finance that mostly affect transition decisions. So I hope if your reader go there and give us lots of comments and questions and criticisms, then we can improve together.
Sure, I will make sure that I put a link of that report into the show notes. CHAN YAU, thank you so much. I know it's quite late in Hong Kong, so I really appreciate you staying up for this. And it was really a great discussion, and I'm sure there'll be more discussions going forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please note that the Asia Climate Finance podcast is provided for educational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice. Any information discussed should not be relied upon for making investment decisions. Listeners should always seek advice from a suitably qualified and authorized investment professional. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of their current or former employers or of the podcast host or producers.